Wadie Haddad was born in 1927 in Safed, Palestine, into a Christian Palestinian family. He grew up during a time of intense conflict, which would shape his future as a militant leader. As a founding member of the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, PFLP, Haddad orchestrated some of the most notorious acts of international terrorism. His life, marked by mystery and controversy, ended under suspicious circumstances in 1978. This is the story of Wadie Haddad, doctor, revolutionary, and global architect of terror. Wadie Haddad is a name that evokes fear, intrigue, and debate. Known as the mastermind behind some of the most shocking terrorist attacks of the 20th century, Haddad's influence on the Palestinian struggle and global militancy is undeniable. Yet, despite his notoriety, much about his life remains shrouded in mystery. In this video, we explore the journey of Wadie Haddad, from his early life in Palestine to his rise as a feared militant leader, and finally, his mysterious death that continues to spark conspiracy theories to this day. Wadie Haddad was born in 1927 in Safed, a city in northern Palestine, to a Christian Palestinian family. His father was a teacher, and his upbringing was steeped in a strong educational ethos. Growing up in Safed, Haddad witnessed the rising tensions between Jewish and Arab communities, tensions that would explode into full-scale conflict with the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. The war, known to Palestinians as the Nakba, or catastrophe, led to the displacement of over 700,000 Palestinians, including Haddad's family. This experience of loss and exile deeply influenced Haddad, embedding within him a sense of grievance and a desire for retribution. These formative years laid the foundation for his later radicalization and commitment to armed struggle. Haddad's academic journey took him to the American University of Beirut, AUB, where he studied medicine. AUB was a hub of political activism, and it was here that Haddad met George Habash, a fellow medical student who shared his nationalist sentiments. Together, they became involved with the Arab Nationalist Movement, ANM, a pan-Arab organization that sought to unite the Arab world against Western imperialism and Zionism. Haddad and Habash's collaboration would prove pivotal. While Habash was more of a public figure and ideologue, Haddad was the strategist, the man behind the scenes who was willing to embrace extreme measures to achieve their goals. After completing his studies, Haddad returned to Palestine, where he began practicing as a pediatrician in refugee camps. But as the political situation in the Middle East deteriorated, his focus shifted entirely to the struggle for Palestinian liberation. The turning point in Haddad's life came with the 1967 Arab-Israeli War, which resulted in a devastating defeat for Arab forces and the occupation of the West Bank, Gaza Strip, and East Jerusalem by Israel. Disillusioned with the traditional Arab leadership, Haddad and Habash co-founded the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, PFLP, in 1967. The PFLP was a Marxist-Leninist organization that advocated for the liberation of Palestine through armed struggle. Unlike other factions within the Palestine Liberation Organization, PLO, the PFLP was less interested in diplomacy and more focused on revolutionary violence. Haddad, who was appointed head of the PFLP's external operations, was instrumental in shaping this militant approach. Haddad's philosophy was simple: to internationalize the Palestinian struggle by targeting Western interests around the globe. He believed that by carrying out high-profile attacks, he could force the world to pay attention to the Palestinian cause and pressure Israel to make concessions. One of Haddad's most notorious operations was the coordinated hijacking of 4 planes in September 1970, an event that became known as Black September. The planes, belonging to TWA, Swissair, and BOAC, were hijacked en route to New York and diverted to Dawson's Field, a remote airstrip in Jordan. The operation, which involved taking hundreds of hostages, was intended to secure the release of Palestinian prisoners. The hijacking ended with the planes being blown up on the tarmac after the hostages were released. This dramatic act of defiance not only captured global headlines, but also led to the Jordanian Civil War, or Black September, which saw the expulsion of the PLO from Jordan. Haddad's operations were marked by meticulous planning and a willingness to cross moral boundaries. In 1972, he orchestrated the hijacking of a Lufthansa flight, using the hostages as leverage to secure the release of 3 Black September members responsible for the Munich Olympics massacre. The operation was a success, further cementing Haddad's reputation as a ruthless and effective leader. Perhaps the most infamous operation linked to Wadie Haddad was the 1976 hijacking of an Air France plane en route from Tel Aviv to Paris. The plane was diverted to Entebbe, Uganda, where the hijackers, including members of the German revolutionary cells, demanded the release of 40 Palestinians held in Israel and 13 others imprisoned in Kenya, France, and Germany. The hijacking culminated in the dramatic Entebbe raid, where Israeli commandos stormed the airport, killing all the hijackers and rescuing most of the hostages. While the raid was a tactical failure for Haddad, it demonstrated the lengths to which Israel would go to protect its citizens and marked a turning point in the global fight against terrorism. The failure of the Entebbe operation, combined with increasing pressure from the PLO leadership to adopt more diplomatic strategies, led to Haddad's gradual decline within the PFLP. His health was also deteriorating, and by the late 1970s, he was largely sidelined from the organization he had helped build. Haddad's operations were not carried out in isolation. During the Cold War, the PFLP-EO, external operations, led by Haddad, received support from the Soviet Union and its allies in the Eastern Bloc. This support included weapons, training, and safe havens. Haddad also established connections with other revolutionary groups, such as the Japanese Red Army, the Baader-Meinhof Group, and the Italian Red Brigades. These international connections allowed Haddad to coordinate a series of attacks that spanned the globe, from Europe to Africa to the Middle East. However, this global reach also attracted the attention of Western intelligence agencies, who began to intensify their efforts to capture or neutralize him. Wadie Haddad's death in March 1978 remains one of the most intriguing mysteries in the history of international terrorism. Officially, Haddad died of leukemia in East Germany, where he had been receiving medical treatment. However, rumors persist that he was assassinated by Mossad, the Israeli intelligence agency. One popular theory suggests that Mossad agents poisoned Haddad by smuggling a bar of Belgian chocolate laced with a slow-acting toxin into his East German hideout. The poison allegedly caused his health to deteriorate gradually, leading to his death. While there is no conclusive evidence to support this theory, the secrecy surrounding Haddad's death has fueled speculation for decades. Wadie Haddad's legacy is a deeply controversial one. To his supporters, he was a hero of the Palestinian cause, a man who refused to bow to Western imperialism and Zionist aggression. To his detractors, he was a terrorist whose brutal tactics only served to harm the very people he claimed to fight for. Haddad's influence on global terrorism is undeniable. His operations inspired a generation of militants, and his methods, particularly the use of hijacking as a political tool, became a blueprint for other revolutionary groups. Yet, his uncompromising approach also alienated many potential allies and contributed to the fragmentation of the Palestinian resistance movement. In the end, Wadie Haddad was a product of his time, a time of intense geopolitical struggle where the lines between freedom fighter and terrorist were often blurred. His legacy is complex and multifaceted, reflecting the broader struggles and contradictions of the Palestinian cause and the global revolutionary movements of the 20th century. Haddad's commitment to armed struggle as a means to achieve political ends set a precedent for militant organizations around the world. His tactics, particularly the internationalization of conflict through high-profile attacks, became a model for other groups seeking to draw global attention to their causes. However, this same approach also drew significant criticism for its willingness to target civilians and its potential to undermine broader political objectives. Over the years, Haddad's image has been both vilified and romanticized. For some, he remains a symbol of resistance against oppression, a man who was willing to make the ultimate sacrifice for the liberation of his people. For others, he is a cautionary tale of how extremism can lead to moral compromise and strategic miscalculation. In recent years, the legacy of figures like Haddad has been re-examined in the context of ongoing debates about terrorism, state violence, and the ethics of resistance. His life and actions continue to provoke discussion and reflection, particularly in the context of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, which remains unresolved to this day. As we look back on Wadie Haddad's life, it is important to consider the broader historical and political context in which he operated. While his methods may be condemned by many, they cannot be understood in isolation from the colonial, imperial, and nationalist struggles that define the 20th century. Haddad's story is ultimately one of resistance, ambition, and tragedy, a reflection of the complexities and contradictions of a turbulent era. Wadie Haddad's life and career encapsulate the tumultuous period of the mid-20th century, where the fight for national liberation often intersected with global ideological battles. From his early days as a medical student in Beirut to his rise as a key figure in the Palestinian resistance movement, Haddad's journey was one of relentless commitment to his cause. His death, shrouded in mystery, only adds to the enigma of a man who was both revered and reviled. In the annals of history, Haddad's name is synonymous with the global reach of Palestinian militancy. His legacy is a reminder of the lengths to which individuals and groups will go in the pursuit of what they believe to be justice. Whether viewed as a hero or a villain, Wadie Haddad's impact on the course of modern history cannot be denied.